Is it a collaborator? Is it a tool? Is it a competitor? Maybe it's all three. To help us understand, we have three panelists here tonight who will help us share their thoughts on AI. Brand expert Ted Holliday, visual effects artist Ethan Soon, and Sentinel photographer Shmuel Thaler. Before we begin, a few notes. After all of our panelists have spoken, we'll take your questions. As you listen to the talks, just jot down your questions on the cards in your seats, and whatever questions come up are fine. And when we get to the Q&A portion of the evening, we will let you know, and you can raise your hand or raise your card, and our CTV board member, David Warren, will come pick up your questions. David, can you raise your hand? So he'll come, he'll get your card, he'll bring it to me, and I'll read it to the panel. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ethan Soon. Ethan leads Almost Human Media, an interactive education studio focused on making current topics in science, technology, and the environment accessible to the public. Ethan is passionate in the belief that advances in game engine technology offer new opportunities for people to learn about complex ideas through play. Oh, so I'm so sorry. The note that I got was soon. This is Ethan Summers.
That's the other guy you were talking about.
That other guy. He's gone, we don't care about him. He's dead to us now. It's Ethan Summers, so sorry, Ethan. Ethan also thinks that interactive simulations can be used to engage people in scientific and environmental discovery. And Ethan is an Emmy-awarded visual effects artist and concept designer with over 30 years of experience. He's worked in lead roles for many clients, including Sony, NASA, Disney, and IBM. Please welcome Ethan Summers.
Hi. Well, I'm clearly the other guy. They just got me at the last minute, so I'll try to babble here. Well, let's see. I'll kind of try to confine myself here. When I was in college, I got interested in what was the precursors of what is now AI. Back then it was called connectionist theory, and it was a branch of the neurosciences, kind of cognitive neurosciences. And the compute wasn't there, but the basic ideas behind training a neural network and then letting it go to be able to become expert in a domain, that was there already. And it was a fascinating era. There were some simple exercises that were people able to simulate just sort of basic neural networks. But even at that time, it was pretty clear that once the compute power did get there, that this would be this incredible tool for doing all sorts of different things. Because like the brain, its neural networks are as you would imagine, kind of lifting some of the structural ideas from the brain, especially the neocortex, and turning them into compute simulations. And so the structure, the way that these neural networks behave in many ways is really similar to the way that brains behave. Now, there's real big differences. One is that what we've done with, or what deep learning has done, has created this kind of purified neocortex, and then just made that really big and really fast, and fed it lots of information. So it doesn't have all the other parts of the brain that we have, which are many, many. Our brains are this incredibly complex lattice of different specific areas that relate to each other, and those come out of millions of years of evolution. AI doesn't have that, and one of the profound kind of worries about AI to me is that you have something that is evolving millions of times faster than any biological organism did ever. And it's creating, no doubt, under the hood, it's creating its own structural specializations, within itself, but nobody has any idea about what those are, because neural networks are a black box, even simple ones. If you, for example, look at the code that was written by a neural network, this is years ago, or basically, I'm sorry, how the neural network is, how the weights basically express what the neural network is doing. It's impossible to figure out what's going on by a human. And then now, you're looking at neural nets that have billions of connections, and it's that much more complex. Anyway, so I'll just put that aside right now. So that was sort of my introduction to this whole area. But as it is now, I've been a painter and a sculpting artist for a long time, and I grew up in a family of artists. And the company that I have, we really have a strong artistic bent in trying to try to communicate ideas educationally, but doing it in a sort of blend between art and technology and science. And so do we use AI? Yeah, we use it for certain things, but we don't use it for everything. We're a small company, so there's, AI has not replaced anybody per se, but for certain tasks, it's an incredible tool for sure. Concept design for being able to just sort of like spread out a zillion ideas really quickly and then be able to respond to those. I feel like the process of working with an AI, at least in the stuff that we do, is very much a collaboration. It's like a conversation that you're having with, it's not a human per se, but it's not like what people archetypally think as a machine either. I mean, it's really some of the visual associations and the, you could call them creative compositions that we see coming out of AI are actually really, very subtle. And often they're weird. I mean, very weird a lot of times, and you'll have to kind of redirect them. And so it's sort of a push and a pull. But working in a technological field, we constantly work with AIs. You look at where we are right now as human beings, and we're all a little bit prosthetic. Both of you guys have your prosthetics out in front of you. And so really, if you're living in a modern society right now, you can't really live without, high technology, and to some extent AI has already been embedded in most of the devices that we use. I'll stop there because there's a real difference in terms of types of AI that I'll get back to later.
Thank you so much. So let us please thank Mr. Summer. Okay, now our next speaker is Shmuel Thaler, and he is the 2016 Santa Cruz County Artist of the Year. He has been a staff photographer at the Santa Cruz Sentinel since 1987. Documenting the news and events in our community, Shmuel recently photographed the Black Lives Matter movement, our local elections, the CZU August Lightning Complex fires, and the pandemic. His photographs have appeared in every major newspaper in the United States. Shmuel's photograph of the Santa Cruz Police Chief Andy Mills and Mayor Justin Cummings kneeling together to honor George Floyd was a national sensation seen by millions. His photographs also illustrate numerous books, including his collaborations with the late Santa Cruz author George Levinson on Bread Comes to Life and the classic Pumpkin Circle, The Story of a Garden. With more than 120,000 copies in print, it is likely on the shelves of this very library. Please welcome Shmuel Thaler.
Thank you. I'm so glad Ethan went before me because he has a lot more knowledge in terms of AI and what it does than I do. I think what I can bring to the discussion possibly is the issues of things like intellectual property, which is certainly a concern. And I find myself thinking about how great technology has been in terms of my profession as a photographer. I think very few industries have See, it doesn't like what I'm saying.
No, that's your intro music, just a late.
It's your version of Hal right there. So, you know, I think as a photographer, well, what I want to say is, I think that few professions have changed as much as photography due to advances in technology, and some of that's AI, and some of it's other technology. But for example, if I have a picture and I have it in Photoshop and I press auto levels, the picture looks better. There's like the computer, the program, that knows how to make it look like I want it to look in general. And so those kinds of things are really great. You know, I think, and digital cameras are an amazing advancement in technology. Be able to see what I've got before I would go back and, you know, process film and go in the dark room, but to see it on scene. Or if I was a surf photographer, you could shoot 36 exposures and then have to come back to the shore. But on the other hand, there's all these issues of how easy it is for images to be used by other people, to be taken, to be changed a little. And we can go into that a bunch as we go on. I think that that's always been the case. And back in the early Soviet Union, if someone was out of favor, they would have an airbrusher take them out. In the same way as I can, in the 5 hours it would take them to do that, well, I can spend, 30 seconds to do it on my own and without very much training. So I think some of the things we're seeing are really, really positive, and I think, we're on a journey. It's always seemed to me that we're on a journey where technology is here. It's not going away. I mean, I think if anyone has their phone but they're concerned about their privacy, it's the horse that's left the barn. If you use the technology, I think we're giving up some of our privacy. There's just no question about that. And what is that information used for, and what kind of algorithms various folks are using, whether it be government or corporations. And on the same note, I've found many of my pictures used for various purposes without anyone asking my permission, much more so now, or transformed into something that they've used my image, and it's being used in some other way that I didn't give permission to. And I think as I said, it seems to me we're on a journey together, and it's not going to stop. But it's good to have the discussion to try and figure out what seems to be useful guardrails if we can apply them. So that's kind of where I come from.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Shmuel Thaler. Our next speaker is Ted Holliday. And it all started for Ted when he taught himself how to design on a Mac just 1 year after it was invented. Ted Holliday has channeled his interest and natural talent in photography, art, and design into success as an award-winning branding professional. He's designed the logo for the library, as a matter of fact. He often shares his knowledge as a guest lecturer in local high schools and colleges. Ted is committed to positively impacting culture and community in the Santa Cruz area, where he has lived and worked for more than 20 years, helping local businesses, nonprofits, and art institutions. An expert in concept and brand development, Ted has over 30 years of experience producing successful marketing solutions for some of the world's most recognized brands, such as Microsoft, Apple, and McAfee. Please welcome Ted Holliday.
Thank you. As she said, I've been a designer for well over 30-something years now. Before the Macintosh came out, and then I switched over to this thing called desktop publishing. And so I've used all these tools, Photoshop version 1, the whole Creative Suite since version 1. And today there's AI built into each one of the apps, Photoshop and Illustrator. So I'm dabbling in it a little bit right now. I'm using other programs like Midjourney and some other tools to explore and play. I'm probably going to be the devil's advocate out of this group. I am very fearful of what AI is going to do for not just my career as a designer and a photographer, but what it's going to do to people that I work with who are in marketing. I work with marketing directors, VPs of marketing, and I'm not sure of what they're going to be doing themselves one day, because I'm going to try and keep mine short here because I know I would love to have discussion as opposed to just hearing me talk. Just an example. So right now you can use a program like Midjourney. You can plug in a prompt and get a picture out, right? Anybody can do that. There's some skill to learning about making good prompts so that you get an amazing image as opposed to just an okay image. But anybody can learn that, right? One day, I believe that there's going to be an AI program that a marketing director will use. Let's say they have a product to launch. They tell the AI what that product is. Let's say it's a coffee cup, right? The AI will know exactly what trade shows that coffee cup needs to be marketed at. It will slot that into the calendar. They will then say, write the PR for that coffee cup when it's going to be launched. That's done in literally 2 seconds, right? It's done. And then they say, for all those events at those trade shows, I need my booth designed. You're not even asking it just knows that's what needs to be done, and it's designed for you. It's not that you can't quite do that today, but it will be designed for you with photos and with the text and messaging and your brand guidelines applied to it, right? Because it understands your businesses in your localized AI guidelines. So that eliminates so many people right there, just right there. If they don't like it, they can do remix and look at a new version, slide it to be edgier or more conservative, and it'll pop out this new thing. And a lot of people in that world I'll know it when I see it with regards to design and marketing pieces. And so they'll have the option to I want to see something else, I want to see it again. And so that, to me, there's no way it's not going there. It has to be going that direction. And so it's not there right now. May not happen in my lifetime with where my career is, but that's just one aspect of marketing and advertising and design work that I see that I'm pretty darn scared of. And there's this quote that it was in a Wired magazine article. It says, in our pursuit of perfection, it can feel like AI is asking for the very thing we shouldn't so quickly give over, the substance of our lived realities. And so that can apply to photography that we take with the camera automatically changing things for us immediately without you even going in and changing it yourself. I feel like there's something that we as humans will lose at that point. And there was another saying years ago, when automation and AI are fully formed and humanity takes full use of it, that humans will be able to go back to being creative, right? That sounds like a lovely thing, and I believed that and thought that for a long time, that we will just be sitting around painting and gardening and that will be our life while everything else is automated for us. But it seems like it's starting with taking away the art. It seems like it's starting to take away our humanity, the things that we love to do. That's what scares me. So there's other things that I love about AI, okay? There's personal automations and things that happen quicker for me. I'm digging those. So it's not all, I'm not this negative Nancy about it, but there is a fear that I have about where it is headed. For sure.
Thank you so much, Ted Holloway. So now is your time. If you have questions, please raise your hands and David will collect your questions. And in the meanwhile, I'll just...
Can I just respond to it?
Yes, please do.
Wonderful, both of you guys. Thanks for talking. And I had so much mind fire going on. But I was thinking, from the perspective of being a photographer, and you know, you could sit in Mid-Journey and you could whip out things that look like photography all the time, but there's one critical difference. You didn't go on the journey to take those photographs. You didn't have the experience of going there and doing the thing, going to, you know, Sebastião Salgado into Africa, or, you know, Nicholas Nixon walking around in the middle of Brooklyn, you know, in the ghetto to take pictures of people. You didn't. None of that was there, and so, you know, that experience is gone. But on the other hand, you know, I think about it a lot as an artist because, you know, it feels to me like the biggest crunch right here is actually with applied arts, and it has to do a lot with capitalism. I mean, you know, capitalism is always going to be betting on the fastest horse. Now there's a horse in town that has like friggin' rockets strapped on the back. You know, and so everyone who's going to be in a position of power when it comes down to it, they're going to be looking at, it's like, okay, here I could hire this person for, you know, $150 an hour, or I could crank up the horse and let it do its thing. It's always going to come down to that.
Yeah.
As far as individual arts go, you know, it's really still, and I think will always be, a individual choice. Do you want to take the journey yourself, or is it something that you are, you know, do you need images quickly for some part of another process that you're working on? Yeah, anyway.
Well, it's a very interesting point. You know, there's this concept that when you're on a journey and you're taking pictures, you're not experiencing it. But I've recently read a bunch of data and studies that say photographers, when they're taking the picture, they don't have as strong a recollection of the whole experience, but they have a much stronger recollection of the moments they took pictures of. And I've experienced that myself.
I can see that.
So, but the thing, I think photography, at least photojournalism, as I understand it, if it survives this, we have less to worry about a little than say painting and other kinds of art, because theoretically a photojournalist is taking a picture of a real moment.
Right.
And I mean, from my perspective, that's the only credibility I have. That people know when they see my pictures, I haven't put stuff in, I haven't taken things out, I haven't digitally manipulated it beyond trying to make it seem like look like what I saw. So, but it's
And hopefully people still take pictures of their weddings instead of
right.
having some AI generate something.
Right.
I would imagine.
Right. And the other thing about photography that's been really clear to me is the fact that this is a camera I use quite often, not all the time, but that the democratization of that, we all have tools now that are easy to use, and you know, and we have access to them, and they're not that expensive. But there's still this idea of you have to know what to take pictures of. I mean, if you look at the Instagrams and the Facebooks and TikToks and whatever, there's a lot of really terrible images there, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, but AI might say, well, tell a photographer this, you know, it's not good enough, let me fix that up for you.
You know, my father was he won Artist of the Year in Santa Cruz too.
Nice.
His name was Carol Summers, and he was a printmaker. He had worked for almost 60 years, you know, and just in woodblock printing. And I remember when it was before AI, but I was, you know, I've been involved in digital arts for a long time, and I was telling him about, you know, these incredible tools and Photoshop and other things out there. And he says, you can literally, if you can think of it, you can do it. You know, there are no limitations to what you could do. And he kind of looked at me and he says, that's horrible. I've never heard anything so tragic. And it took me a couple years to think about it. But, you know, it's absolutely right, is that, you know, through limitation comes creativity in many cases. And I have never had blank canvas syndrome as badly as looking at a computer screen going, 30 years of experience, I'm like, I could go a zillion different directions, and I feel passionate about none of them right now.
So we have some questions from the audience, and the first one is for Ted.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you know the answer. It's easy. The question is, have you seen AI-created logos that leveraged your intellectual property?
Mine? No. I have not. In fact, I haven't seen any AI logos that I like in the slightest bit. They all come out looking like T-shirt designs. They need to be big. There's too much going on with them, and too much texture and shadow and whatnot. I'm a very minimal logo, very simple. Pare it down to the smallest. But no, none of my work. I'm not that famous.
So we have another nice question. So I get that AI is stealing cognitive load and creativity from humans, but do you think it will allow us to innovate more than we already are? For example, scribes replaced by printers, but boosted productivity.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, yeah. Yes. Yes. AI is gonna I'm not exactly sure how to answer the question other than yes, it will provide all those things. I just there comes a point when if anybody can do anything I can do or anything you can do, then where am I? In this world, I think we all have these talents and these skill sets that somehow miraculously come out of us. And if I'm not able to use mine to the benefit of society or to my family or to whatever it might be, I feel lost in that. I don't see my place in that role. I don't see my place in that world. I mean, I'm lost, and I think we all will feel lost at that point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's no humanity there. Yeah, it'll all be so convenient and it'll help. But where does that leave us? Yeah.
I've been wondering what, machines make just about everything these days, but handmade things are more valued.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if one day, if AI starts to take a big role in art, will things made by humans be a premium?
I think personally, I think that's going to be the case. I think also real world experiences outside, it's such a silly thing to say, but real hikes and climbs and exploration and photo tours and whatnot, expeditions are going to be a huge thing 10 years from now, right? 5 years from now, when that's not the norm. We get it all right here, right? Mm-hmm. Right now. And I think that's human made, human sung, real world experiences. It's going to be a big deal. My kids, I'm even pushing them right now, go towards things that hint at experiences and tours and things that you can provide other humans, and not sitting in a lab all day or sitting in in an office all day, because that's going to be gone at some point. Go outside and do something there.
Yeah, be in the real world.
Yep.
Yeah. So does anyone else have a thought on that? On whether human-made things? Well, certainly photography would probably be one of those things where because humans can go where cameras cannot go alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there'll always be a market for human-made things, but less and less it's going to be the humans are necessary to make those things, and for a lot of, you brought up the idea of marketing, is that for a lot of marketing stuff, that is going to be AI driven. Probably a lot of it is already, but if you're looking for the specific connection with an artist, a specific connection with a human experience, then we're still the only game in town.
So here's a question for you all. As an artist, what part of your creative process would you like AI to replace, and what would you like it to stay away from?
I can say, right now it works great for me, quite honestly. The fact that, I don't know how much of this is AI and how much is just digital photography. That's where I have a little trouble with it. Yeah. They're kind of intertwined. And if you had asked me, we're having a discussion about what we think is going to happen. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, would we be here? This would be mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. So, if you travel around the world and everyone's like this, right? It's mm-hmm. So the world is really different, so different right now than it was just a little while ago, and it's going to probably exponentially change. But for me, the whole other than spending time in a dark room by myself, that I don't get that anymore. Everything else about photography, from my perspective of what I do in my job, is better now than it was.
Yeah, like batch automation. You can edit like one photo, a raw photo, and have all the other photos look just like that.
Right.
And tweak it a little bit, which I'm not sure if that's totally AI or not, right?
I assume it is, but I'm not sure.
Brilliant, you know.
No, it's good. That's
Yeah.
that's a time saver, or the fact that somehow, once again, that I can press an auto levels button, and my picture, the artificial intelligence or whatever, the algorithms make it look like I want it to look, for the most part, not perfectly. I mean, I'm sure AI will actually, the thing it might do is know how I like my pictures to look, and my auto levels in Photoshop will be different than your auto levels
Right,
in Photoshop.
right.
That's
Well, speaking of that, AI knowing how your levels are and how you like them to look. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. Tag, you're it.
Oh, no.
I think what happens a lot on the internet, especially writers have been noticing this, is that their articles, people are using their voice to write an article. They'll say, write an article in the voice of this reporter, and they're stealing their style. Would that be something that you might see happen with your photos?
I can't imagine it, but it probably can, right? I mean, because once again, there's this reality thing. It's really different than being a painter or creating an ad campaign. I mean, it's just a different thing, because even almost every photograph I've seen used in ad campaigns has been significantly altered, if not multiple images combined.
Yep.
So that AI can do that, no problem, and that's might be more effect for these two.
But there's something special about your photos, or they wouldn't be in all of the newspapers across the nation. So if someone could copy your technique by just feeding a lot of your photos into AI, how would you
can
feel?
feed that right now.
Right.
You can feed your photos in there and say generate images that are like this, like right now.
And those same abilities have been around in Photoshop for years and years, being able to dupe a style. Work in Hollywood or have, and taking a style from a known artist and then basically amplifying it into a film has been around for decades.
Yeah, I can give you a concrete example of how that happened to me. But this is not to do with AI. So I think AI is just making it way easier. When my kids had braces, I was at their orthodontist, and he's a surfer, and I won't tell you I won't use his name, but he's a lovely, lovely human being. And I have this photograph I took a number of years ago of this Russell Smith, who's a Santa Cruz guy surfing at Mavericks. And it's one of my more well-known photographs, and I go and I get the card of the dentist and the invoice, and that wave is like his logo. And I actually went to him and I said, that looks like my photograph. And then he said, I'm really sorry. And he talked to his graphic designer. He got back to me. He said, you know what? He just wanted a wave of Mavericks. He went on the internet, found a wave, and used that. Now, the odds of the kid, of the photographer who took that being his patient is pretty small. But that, so it's happened then. Now it's exponentially easier to do that too. So.
As an artist, does it bother you to have people take your way and repeat it?
It does and it doesn't. I've never put watermarks on my pictures like most people do. And,
Yeah. I mean, I'll speak for any artist that's ever existed right now. We're all influenced by each other's art. There is an artist alive that has not been influenced, maybe Albert Pinkham Ryder, because he lived in his garage. But okay, with the exception of stuff like that, we're all influenced by other artists, and we all, bring those visions, sometimes really obviously and sometimes really subtly, to bear when we're making our own work. And on the same coin there, I would also suggest that have also appropriated a language, all of us, that we didn't invent ourselves.
Okay.
So there's a lot of cultural material that we have gotten from the people around us. Is it stealing? Yeah, maybe in some ways it is. There's a lot of ideas, and so that this sort of sacred circle that the idea of a personal style has become, I think, is a little bit of an illusion. Now it does exist. I mean, if somebody were to come and directly rip off your stuff and start making money off of it, taking your photographs and start making money off of it, then yeah, that's a real violation. But if somebody is influenced by your style, I think that's actually more of almost a compliment.
Okay, well, we have more questions. What new jobs will be created once AI replaces the old ones?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a real.
It's a really good question. Yeah.
I keep wondering that myself.
Do we have an answer?
And I will say, but it does bring up that as we're talking about this, part of my concern is not it definitely is how it affects the first world. But there are so many people in the world that are not going to be going on expeditions, doing fun stuff and live a life of subsistence or less. And if they're all out of work, and then combined with the ravages of climate change and all this kind of stuff, the world's going to be really different. So that's certainly going through my head.
The ideal is like way down the road that the government or whatever it is giving us all a salary of some sort.
And
We're not
universal
doing
income.
anything.
Yeah.
That's like the end game, right?
Yeah.
A lovely end game. Like we're kind of, maybe, I don't know, but like we're not doing anything but creating art and hanging out and spending time and producing and sharing and whatever. I don't know. That's
there's a great short story by Kurt Vonnegut where like smart people have to wear bells on their heads and strong people have to wear weights on their bodies, in order to make everyone equal. It was sort of a metaphor for, do we need work? Do we need a challenge for something to do, or can we all sort of live in a comfortable void where we can do whatever we want? I sort of think that most human beings, it's maybe like we're not even wired to deal with that.
right.
But we might get a chance to experience it.
I agree with that. I don't think we're wired for that. I think we crave more than that. And not necessarily work, not necessarily going to an office and working for somebody, but like, I need to provide, I need to produce, I need to create. I literally, if I sit down for a week and I don't, I'm ill. Like I really am. I can't function properly. So, yeah.
I read there was one futurist who was speaking in a podcast, and sadly I can't remember her name, but she said that she feared that in the future that the robots would be writing all the music and painting all the paintings, and humans will be doing the hard things like picking strawberries and things that we can do with our nimble hands, and not necessarily with our hearts. On that happy note, how can we detect that a photograph or a video is legitimate? I guess like legitimate, I mean the original or not
There's
doctored.
software that detects that, correct? Pixel.
You could do pixel matching,
changes.
yeah. But do people use it? Usually not.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to get better. I think the non-originals are going to get better and better. I mean, they already are.
Yeah.
There's a number of examples in photojournalism of photographers crossing a line, where they put people in a photograph or combined two. And it's taken editors. There was one in the Hartford Courant who saw two faces that were similar in one image, and that's how that particular photograph by this guy Brian Walsky was detected from the war in Iraq. So I mean the answer from my perspective as a photojournalist is that we can't. And
Well,
we,
there's new, like, okay, Leica came out with that new 11M, I think it is, camera that has some sort of software licensing inside of it that attaches itself to each photo, stating that it's the original image, kind of a thing. And I believe other camera makers are going to be adopting that very soon. And so it's like it puts a stamp on it saying this is a legit photo from a camera.
with
It
some
has
sort
not
of
been
brand.
altered or touched, right? And so, like, to me, I feel like that's like we have to do that for photo competitions and photojournalism and that sort of thing. Advertising, it's different, right?
Right.
That's different. It's all fake.
I've heard blockchain ideas for doing that, for verifying,
Yeah.
not only photographs but other stuff too.
Yeah.
Well, so now that anybody can go on and if they have the right prompts, create something amazing. Does AI democratize creativity?
I would say no.
And can you elaborate?
Well, I think that, even if you look at Midjourney, and you could go on there and write a prompt for something, but it's still 90% of the work in Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or any one of those platforms is pretty unexamined. It's not a creative. It doesn't look like a creative process. It's, I want a picture of me with big muscles in front of fast car, that type of thing. Where I think that like if you approach those tools as a creative medium, I think that there's a lot of latitude in terms of being able to explore spaces in a really interesting way. And that's the process of creativity. You're just, applying it to a different tool. You could be applying it to anything. And so, I don't think that you somehow just get that instantaneously by being able to create a picture in Photoshop or create a picture in Midjourney or write a sentence in ChatGPT. It's not you that's doing it.
Will AI-generated illustrations, does the capability of that and just having that out there, does that devalue actual work of real illustrators? Does it make them worth less, their work worth less?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Illustrator now, it's an Adobe program, and there's other programs that can do this. There's people out there that design just icons. They're icon designers, and they design them for websites. We see the little icons across the screen. They also do some other things, but you can now just say, here's a couple of icons that our brand uses. Create me 5 more with these words, and what make an icon based on that word. It just does it for you, right? And so there's jobs that are right now just literally starting to go away, and we're just at the beginning of it, right? Wow. Just at the beginning. And so you can type in bird on a tree, pelican, whatever, and it'll draw that for you. Change the colors. It'll show you 5 options. And so those are vector, illustrations that, I don't know, maybe are less of a thing than a true illustration that's painted or chalk or whatnot. But it's already starting down that path it's so easy to do. I can go do it tonight, real quick for a client, and like no fuss, and I don't have to pay somebody to do it. Like it's that easy for me right now.
Wow. So speaking of that, as you run businesses and you have employees and AI is out there becoming more and more valuable, how are you planning to integrate it into your business while balancing the value of your employees?
Yeah, we do that all the time. And now, as a small business, we have about 6 employees. Everyone wears a lot of different hats. And so, there's nobody at our office that's in danger of being replaced by AI. That said, we do use AI all the time in tasks that for a larger company, you would either be a specialized person or it would be a specialized contractor to do. Like your example of the icons is perfect. Concept designer would be one that has been especially hard hit. They're feeling it already in Los Angeles for even script writers, story writers are starting to feel it from ChatGPT. So it's going to get, you're absolutely right, it's going to get more and more invasive into people's platforms. As soon as AI is able to create 3D models, it's going to wipe out a whole slew of different professions that are out there. Real rough.
Yeah, real rough. You
Yeah.
can take Mid-Journey images, architecture, whatnot, and another program will turn that into 3D. And it's real rough.
Right, yeah.
But that's just the beginning.
But yeah, just in a couple of years, it'll be there for sure.
Yeah. I personally don't use AI in the work that I do. I like everything that I do. So clients come to me because of me, right? My studio's name is Studio Holiday. It's my last name, and they expect me to work on the projects. It doesn't necessarily have to do with I'm anti-AI in that regard. It's just if I just showed them something that I just quickly produced on Mid-Journey or whatnot, I would get in trouble by them, and I would not retain them as a client. They're expecting me to literally sit there and work on these projects. And I love doing what I do, so I'm not going to stop and trade that for something else that can do it quicker for me necessarily. Unless it's editing a photo that I'm still changing and correcting and whatnot, so I'll copy that and apply it to the other photos. But I'm still wanting to do what I do. So I don't use ChatGPT. I have it. I've dabbled in it. I've asked it questions. It's like, wow, okay, I can see what this can do, right? I've used Mid-Journey. I've paid for it. Like, I know what they can do. I don't use them.
So in your case, with your clients, it's you they're interested in.
It literally is. They
the
talk
human
to me.
part, the human made is better.
Yeah. But, well, for me, from the way I see it, yes. They want to talk to me. They want to see me. They want to have me pitch to them. They want me to present to them. All that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
They're my ideas.
Yeah, it's your
that I'm
essence and your
creating.
thoughts.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that
Yes.
AI doesn't have. Does anyone
I
have?
have a question that just occurred to me based on what you were saying about you. In our last seminar here, we had 3 people talking. There was a woman from the county, and they were looking for candidates for a different position, and they noticed across the slew of 50 that the personal statements were remarkably similar, and they all came out of. And I'm wondering if that is a trend where, it's like if you just plugged in for some icons or something, and they, AI kicked them out, and it's got a similar sort of thing.
Right.
Whereas yours is unique. If that kind of similarity will be detectable, and people go, that's AI, whether it's in your work or your work.
Yeah, I can spot AI work. Like maybe not icons necessarily. Yeah.
Well, I just think it's going to get harder and harder to spot, though. That's my guess.
No, 100, I'm totally 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing is really very new. It's only, Midjourney was almost a not even usable beta a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so you take it and run it out 5 years from now, and we're really going to be looking at, player piano. And we're going to be looking at something where a lot of professions are impacted. And it's unexplored territory.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, you mentioned there might be even people asking the same question and getting very similar responses on their applications or whatever it might be. Somebody told me the other day they were reading a blog that was written by AI. The website was designed by AI, something along these lines, and there was no human involved. You can even tell the writing; it wasn't edited, right? Because you got to edit ChatGPT. You do.
Right.
There was just this AI thing, machine, whatever we want to call it, right? Talking to me, I'm reading it, kind of a thing, trying to sell me something. And it's just weird. It's where is the human there? What is it what's happening with that? It's quite remarkable, and it's gonna be generic. It's gonna become, I don't know.
You know, well,
I'm so sorry that I'm coming across so negative because there are so many things that are exciting about AI. Personal assistants, I want one. I want to get that in AI. I want to get that thing. There's a lot of cool things that are happening. Art and marketing and design. I'm nervous about it.
One of the cool things that I heard tonight was that you were having conversations with AI, and I would just like to know how you're using it at work. How is it helping you, and what are you talking about?
Well, I mean, it's not a literal conversation like "How do you do?" It's more of a visual conversation. You can start off with an idea and say, okay, so what if we have actually, I like using some of the versions of Midjourney that are older because they're messier. Mm-hmm. They're more chaotic, and they're good. They're better at just sort of splatting out different
more like art
ideas.
More like
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ones with the 18 fingers and stuff like that. Yeah. That's all great. I love that. And anyway, so sometimes we use it for just sort of like splatting out some different ideas, and then we'll kind of move into one of them and say, okay, so. Since we do work in 3D, we rarely do anything that's only 2D, then, it becomes a process sort of like, this is really interesting, this reminds me of, this, and this other thing. Maybe we can explore this direction, but in 3D. So in order to do it in 3D, it's a whole sort of backwards engineering, like how would we actually create something that's a phosphorus foam-like, jellyfish that's, that's climbing out of a car, and it's, done in the style of medieval art or something like that. I mean, it's that sounds like a prompt already, but we do the educational stuff we do is often like really whimsical and weird, and I love that quality of it, and so we use it as a bouncing board. Mm-hmm. And then we have it, our crew too are wonderful bouncing boards, and so we use it all together.
Huh.
So,
that's interesting. So you use it to get ideas.
Well, I mean, it's like much in the same way as a conversation with mm-hmm. the people here. You never come into a conversation knowing where you're going to end up at the end of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a journey. And it involves everyone contributing, and so I think that AIs, in one of their more positive aspects, will be something where people could do that. Mm-hmm. It could be part of the creative process.
Interesting. Oh, that seems sort of fun. David, you have a question? Can you speak up real loud because there's no microphone?
To me that the large language models basically represent a whole lot of human activity. That have written things or whatever, and that large language model is when we query it, when we ask questions, and we ask it to dialogue with us in some way. There's this odd little feeling that maybe I'm communing with my ancestors, mm-hmm. but there's something that's rich about that I've never experienced before, and it feels like a collaboration.
Yeah.
Am I not collaborating with humanity writ large?
Well, I think the collaborator is one of the things that they keep pitching us on. It's going to be a collaborator. It'll work alongside you. I hear that a lot. Would you use AI to come up with new things to photograph? Not that you don't have your own ideas, but would you look for things that had never been photographed?
No, I wouldn't. Once again, I'm speaking from my experience, my truth here. I'm not telling anyone else what to do. But my job is really different and I have a unique job in the world, and I just kind of go. I'm in our community taking pictures of whatever I see, and it gets miraculously published every day. So I don't see much of a use for it. But I'm also concerned with this whole, or not concerned, but really aware of the fact we're on a journey, and technology and AI has helped me do what I do, and we're on the train, and maybe we can help it not go off the tracks. I mean, by having discussions like these.
I think that's interesting. So getting together and talking about it might keep us on, provide some guardrails and keep us going down the highway safely.
Yeah, and and it's very obvious to me that it's great that if our government is concerned with it, and the Congress is having hearings about, but that's not going to stop people in other places by doing things. And AI, in our world is so small now that the fact that something might not be allowed here doesn't mean it's not going to be part of our reality.
Well, we have just a few minutes left. I wanted to give you each an opportunity to say your final thought, your closing thought. Ted, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm very excited about this AI world. I'm very excited about what AI can do for each of us personally, right? Meaning, I look forward to having assistance, the global knowledge, like being able to use that on a daily basis easily, right? That part of it I like. That part of it, that knowing all things, basically, I can know anything I want right now, and how to apply that to my life. That side of AI I like and look forward to. I'm going to keep watching everything else, though.
Keep your eye on it. Shmuel, what are your final thoughts?
I just hope we keep having these conversations, and that that together, hopefully, we can keep connected. We can not let the technology be leading us in what we're doing, but I'm on the journey, I guess.
I would say that creativity is porous, and what I mean by that is that the process of creativity doesn't stop at the boundaries of my skin. It doesn't stop with another person. It doesn't stop with time. We rely on things that are not only back in time, but on our ideas about forward in time as well. And so, when we create anything, we're actually drawing on a whole web of experience that goes across people, across other animals, across the whole world, and across time. And that's one of the lovely things about it. And so, in that sense, it's really not something that you own. You get to tap into it, and you get to, if you're open to it, you get to be directed by it and pushed by it. That said, what we are all under the thumb of, which is basically we all have to live in a capitalist world, is exactly the opposite of that. It's non-porous. It relies on divisions, and so you can quantize things and market them to each other. And so I'd like to end on that.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Ted Holliday, Shmuel Thaler, and Ethan Summer.
Yes.
For coming here, for answering the questions of the audience, and for sharing your expertise. Let's please thank our guests. And I'd like to thank you all as well for coming out at night after dinner and bringing your questions and your attention. And we're happy to have you, and we hope we see you all again. For CTV and Santa Cruz Public Libraries, I'm Becca Reed saying thank you and good night. Thank you, guys. Good work.